What's up, guys? Mr. D here. So we are getting ready to switch. Let's see, it is Thursday, November something. I don't even know what. Let's see if our little buddy knows. Mr. Badger doesn't know either. So we are getting ready to start a new unit. We have been doing life science, where we're talking about, plant growth, how things interact in ecosystems and environments. We are going to switch to, because I like to do things out of order. I jump around a lot because I get bored if I do the same thing too long, and then if I'm bored, I have no energy for what I'm teaching, and therefore you guys will become bored, I think. But we will get to everything. 2020 doesn't make sense anyway, so we're just going to keep on trucking Mr. D style. All right, so we are going to start earth science. There are lots of processes that change the earth and help form the earth. We talk about the rock cycle. We'll talk about fossils. We'll talk about changes to the earth's surface, how we use our resources, weather, how our oceans work, and the earth, moon, and beyond. So this is kind of a fun unit. The first thing I want to do, just to kind of get it started, is a fun thing that you could do to make connections at home. And I think it's a neat skill that everybody should know. In fact, there is actually a unit on it in the social studies book. But it is talking about landforms and how we use landforms. And you'll talk about, like in social studies, or sometimes in science, earth science, you'll talk about landforms and plateaus and ridges and things like that. How our earth is formed, but also the lay of the land. And there is a cool app, there are lots of apps, but if you learn to read something called a topo map, all right, it's called a topography map. And a topography map looks like just an aerial map, and it's like a satellite image, kind of like Google Earth. But then you'll see all these squiggly lines all over the map. And what those do, they tell you all kinds of things. I use them all the time when I hunt, or if I was going to go hiking, or if I was going to go camping, or if I was wanting to build a house on a property, because these lines tell you things like how steep the terrain is, if it's really steep, if there's a valley, if there's a flat spot on top. Where this could be handy is if you were going camping in Colorado and you were going to go hiking and you're planning on hiking for 10 hours and then resting. You want to find on that topography map a flat spot to put your tent up so you're not sleeping on the side of a mountain. So this app will help you do that. It's a hunting app. And another thing that the reason I use it for hunting is a topography map will show you the lay of the land, where it is. Animals are just like humans. We're going to walk through the woods with the path of least resistance. We're not going to walk up a hill like this, right? No, none of us are. Or go down it. We're going to avoid that. We're going to travel up the valleys, okay, and take the easy path. So I'm going to show you on this map. It's called Onyx Hunt is the one that I use. And it's pretty cool because you can add all kind of features to it. If you have a camera out there, a trail camera, and you get a picture of something, you can add a waypoint that will tell what you got a picture of there, and you can document it. Last year, my science kids documented all kinds of animals out on the nature area using this app. All right, and it's something you can put on your phone or iPad. I think it does cost a little bit. There may be a free version, but I'm going to give you a little tutorial on that. Here we go. Okay, so this is a topography map. All right, it is a satellite image map. You can just go to a topo map. I like to read these, but because it clearly shows the lines better. But if you go to the hybrid map, it'll show a satellite image, and it will show the topo lines. So you see all those squiggly lines. I'm going to show you how to read those, and then I'll go out on the nature trail and show you some of these points. So this is our school. All right, it's 61 acres, big area there. And then over here where I am sitting right now, this is still school property. All right, that's a big chunk there. That is 18 acres. And here is where I am right now, sitting in the building. You can see the fish pond. All right. Looks like there's some cars out back or something. Okay, but you can see these lines, and there's the school pond. Okay, here's the nature trail, then the windmill. You go in the nature trail through here. All right, and the nature trail follows. There's no coincidence. It's following this line right here. Okay, and then you'll see that it follows down into this valley off the ridge. It follows these lines and then turns and comes back up through here and then up this valley and out, all right? Now, how you read that? If we went into the nature trail right here, all right? These lines, the closer together the lines are, the steeper it is. The farther apart they are, the flatter it is. So if they're far apart like this, okay, going up like that, this is a gradual hill because they're not super tight together. If we go over here, this is right by the bridge. Do you see how tight those lines are getting together? That means it's really steep right there. When I go down to the bridge and show you, it should be extremely steep. Now, when you see what looks like a U or a V like this, that is a valley, and there should be another U or V on up this way. Okay, so that means it is following, that is a low point. I could follow that if this is high and this is a hill, down here is a low point. The animals will probably travel up this low point, all right, or they may turn and come up this low point, all right, that is a valley. When you see a big area of flat, like where this field is, do you see how far apart these lines are? That means that's a very flat surface. And then this line shows that that is a higher point on the field, so there must be a little gradual hill falling off this way and a little hill falling off that way. I could go over by the highway over here, and obviously the highway sits higher than the other ground, and you can see these lines where from the railroad tracks up start getting closer together. That's a hill, and then following off the other side, it goes downhill to that person's pond. We could go and find some pretty steep hills out here. The steepest one that we're going to find around here, here's Harry's backyard. And his is a pretty steep hill. If you look here, got the lines coming together there. This is actually Harry's. Over here, it's even steeper. All right, and then a valley. They could walk up that valley. But we could find animals taking the least resistant path. So I'm going to switch real quick to a place like Colorado, or we could go to Mount Everest and see how tight those lines get together. But this is the spot I'm going to go out and find on the nature trail and see if I can find a steep hill. And then I'm going to try to prove to you where these valleys are, okay, or points. This is a point, all right, like a high part on a ridge. Then coming this way is a valley. If the hill, if it makes a U like that, it is a valley. And then off the side of a valley would be a ridge, okay? Deer and animals will bed on these points, lay there because they are high and they can see down into the valleys. So they would bed here, looking down into the valley. But we're going to see if we can find game trails on these valleys, coming out of the valleys and off the top of the ridges. So we won't see any probably going straight up. Okay, so now I have flown to Colorado on this app. On this app, it's pretty cool. You can do this on Google Earth too. You just can't see the topo lines, but you can go anywhere you want. I typed in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and that is right here. I elk hunted out here one year, and it is near the Continental Divide, somewhere around here. I don't really remember where. But when I zoom in, you'll be able to see the topo lines. Now, these are mountains, and you remember how gradual and far apart the lines were here in Illinois? Even the line made on the spot by the bridge was fairly close, but it was as close as you're going to find around here because it's still nothing like these. Watch when I zoom in. Okay, look at those lines, how close they are together. That means it is incredibly steep. Like these are just super, super steep ridges. Now, if you go in here and find a spot, okay, like this, that circle in the center, that means that is a high part. Okay, that is a flat spot on top of the mountain. And then there's another big flat spot, but then it starts falling off this way. Now this slope on each side is fairly gradual. If I was going to go camping, all right, in this place, and I wanted to plan out my hike, I would try to find the valleys, okay? I would come up through this valley. I could take a rest here on this flat spot. I could continue on up the valley and then get up here to this ridge, take a break here in this flat spot. This is a pretty gradual hill because the lines aren't super close together, and finally camp on this flat spot. Okay, and then I could plan my next hike. If I wanted to go up some steeper terrain, the next day I could climb down the mountain. Okay, pretty easy hill. This is more of a valley because it's got some swoops in it there. I'd get to the bottom now. This is going to be my hard hike. My goal is going to be to get up here to this flat spot on top of the mountain. This is super, super steep. My plan here would be I'm going to follow the bottom of the mountain, around through this valley, okay? And then I'm going to actually hike it all the way around here. This is a creek, or like a river, okay? So you know it's in a low area. And I'm gonna get to the bottom of this creek, and do you see these little U's or V's going up the hill? That means there's like a ravine or a valley going up, and that would be easier walking. Still steep, but I would probably hike that right on up here to the top of the mountain to camp. All right, those are topo lines. So this is flat, this is the top. The closer they are together, the steeper it is. All right, but we can go and find some crazy, crazy steep mountains. Now, look at that big flat spot on top of that mountain. You would have to hike up some incredibly steep, challenging hills to get there, okay? But then you could get up to a flat top on that. It might be fun to fly around and see if you could find any spots steeper, find the tallest mountain in the world and see what the lines look like. I'm sure they're pretty high. Now, it'll also tell you how many feet above sea level you are. So right now, this, where we're at, is 2,000 feet above sea level, okay? I guess that's right. So this is a low spot here. Now let's go back to a high spot. So that we were at a low spot of 500 feet, and we just went up to 2,000 feet. Okay, so I'm gonna go out on the nature trail now and find a few of these locations, obviously not Colorado. My first goal is to find the steepest spot, which I thought looked like it was by the bridge, okay? And then I'll kind of explore around out there and see if we can find some other marks where game trails might be. I can show you where I have a couple trail cameras and why I have those trail cameras there to be able to catch game. And I use a topography map like this to do all of that. All right, now when I get back to class, you'll see I'm standing out in the yard on the playground, and the school sits on a huge, big, it looked like a big flat circle, okay? And that is a big, wide, flat circle. They built the school here because it's the tallest point, and then all of the hills fall off so the water doesn't run straight down. If you build a structure on the bottom of a hill, all the water pours into it. So you would use a topo map to, even if you're building a house, to find the highest point on the land. We are 600 feet right here. Probably when we go into the woods here and go down to the bottom of the hill, we'll be more like 550 feet. And so you'll be able to see here, it is all flat, okay? And then when I go into the nature trail, it's gonna start going downhill. So if we look on the topo map, we ought to start seeing the lines pretty far apart at first because it's gradual, but I'm going in on a ridge, okay? So it'd look like a U this way. So next to a ridge on each side of it, there should be a valley where it looks like a U going the opposite way, all right? Now, when I'm first going in right here, it is fairly gradual. There's a little slope here, but then it gets flat. That's because I'm on a ridge. The people that built this nature trail did it this way for a reason, because the top of a ridge is really easy to walk because it's flat, okay? So as you can see, as I'm walking down this trail, it's super flat, all right? And on this side, you can't really see it too well, but it falls off into a valley. On this side, it falls off into a valley. And then there'll be a point at the end of this ridge where it makes the U, okay? And then starts going down a hill, off the hill at the end. Now, to see if I really know what I'm doing, I have a tracker on that app that I can set and start it when I start walking. It'll tell me how far I walk and where I walk and show me my tracks. So I'll show you that when I get back inside. So I'm gonna keep walking. Now, when I get up here to the end, I'm gonna stop at the end of the ridge and show you that I'm out on a point that would look like a U, okay? And then there'd be another U a little farther out and another U, and that means it's going off the point. So I will come back to that in a minute. All right, now I am out standing on the point, okay? I walked in the nature trail on the ridge. I told you there'd be a valley off to this side, a valley off to this side, and then the point. If you can look, you can kind of see there is a valley, okay? This is a pretty steep hill off to the left, all right? But we're on the point off to the right, so it drops off there and it drops off here, okay? So you ought to be able to see on my tracker that I walked right down a ridge where it was flat, and I got to a point when I did this video. I'll kind of walk around in a big circle. It'll look like I'm a confused squirrel, on the tracker when you see it, because there'll be weird marks where I walked around in kind of like a figure 8, and we'll see if it tracks me like that. All right, but that'll mark where I was at, that I was on a ridge. Now, if anybody's watching me, they're like, what is that man doing? The animals definitely already don't know what I'm doing. So now when I get over here, I'm gonna go down the hill, all right? So here is the U going this way on the ridge. Now there's gonna be another U going the opposite way, which will be a valley. Now the animals would like to walk that also because it's easier walking. So here is another valley going the other way, all right? And there is a game trail right through there. Same thing here, the valley comes down, okay? Now up there is the point that I was standing on, okay? Up there by that big tree. I'm going lower right now. I'm probably at about 530 or 40 feet. And here is a creek. A lot of times you can tell with a creek, you can tell you're at the bottom, right? Because all water finds the lowest point always, no matter what. It'll always find the lowest point. And I have something else I'm gonna teach you with landforms and topo maps about water. But now I'm coming to a pretty steep area. The bridge is up here. The side of the hill here is an almost vertical climb. You see no game trails there. That's because they are lazy just like us. They're not gonna go up something that's hard to walk, okay? Now, they are gonna, if they wanna get up there, they're gonna find a way to go. And a lot of times they'll do it right next to a creek or something like that. So there is a game trail at the bridge here, all right? I'm gonna stop and reverse this phone. Okay, I've walked down this ridge, all the way down the very back ridge along the railroad tracks, running parallel with the railroad tracks, and the ground is starting to slope back the other direction. It's been really steep on this side and the other side, so there's been hardly any game trails. But as we come up here, all right, the hill, the ridge starts to, it keeps going there out into the field, and then here it starts sloping gently back down. It's not as steep. This is where you'll find animals using those topo lines for the path of least resistance. Now the leaves are out covering the ground, so it's harder to see the trails, but there are some huge game trails here. And I'm gonna show you one because I have a camera on one to document what's in here. Just have to find it with all these leaves falling. Okay, they take this path of least resistance right down through here. See how it's nice and gradual? They can come right through here, all right? And they come down the hill. Now I'm down low. So you ought to see my tracker going down to the bottom. All right, now there was a deer scrape right in here. I taught you guys about that the other day where they lick the branches. You can see the leaves are covering it up, but they've actually broken the branches off. We talked about how those are licking branches. And I have a game camera right there, all right? And it will catch anything coming through this low spot, but you can kind of see the trail through here, taking the path of least resistance, and then it goes right on up to the ridge, to the easiest access point. So I will take, this is not a cell camera like oh, I got my phone. Yikes. Okay, I'm gonna stop, check the camera. I'll show you what's not far from the windmill, and I'm gonna go up here and show you this creek. Like I was talking, the farther away from the river you get, generally the smaller it gets because the volume is water is lower. You don't have as many tributaries dumping into it. A tributary is like a little creek that dumps into a bigger creek, and then that bigger creek dumps into another creek that is bigger. Those are tributaries. So all the little creeks that run into this creek keep dumping into here. Those are called tributaries. So it picks up more water as it goes downhill towards the river. This is the same creek I was on earlier, okay? Now I can just walk right across it. One step, I'm over the creek, all right? Now you can also see a lot of game tracks here. It's a huge deer track right there, almost as big as my hand, but they're crossing here because I'm in a valley, all right? But it has a point up there and a point up here. This is called a saddle, where two ridges come together and it looks kind of like a horse's saddle. And they come right up the saddle and out the other side because it's easy walking. All right, here's another deer scrape that's fresh. So you see I told you guys they scrape there. There should be some broken branches here that they lick on and rub their scent on. See the branches up there broken? All right, he's marking his territory, trying to attract the girls and be tough and scare off the other boys in the area. All right. All right, I made it back. You can see my tracks on the app, and you can see I left out the back door. I started the tracker right on the playground. Got a little confused there. I was looking at my phone and walking. I went in the beginning of the nature trail. If you look, you'll see what I was talking about. I went down a ridge because this is the top of a ridge. This is the hoop, all right, that shows that it's the high point. And then here's another one, so it's a gradual hill on each side, and I went out to the point, all right, and I said that there would be a valley down here, and then a valley around here, so this is a low spot, and it comes back up to the playground, okay, so this is the high ridge, this is the low, so if we go over here, there would be another high point, that is a ridge, this is a valley. Go back over here, whenever there's a ridge, there's gonna be a point, and animals would bed on that point to look out over this valley. Okay, so if this is a high point, this would be a low point coming up here, and it would just keep right on going. High point, come back to a low point, all right? But my tracker went in, all right, down the top of the ridge. I got to the top of the hill, and I made a little figure 8. It doesn't show the figure 8. I guess I had to walk more to show the figure 8, but this is where I kind of walked around in circles. And then I went down. Now I went over by the bridge, and this is where I stopped on the bridge, okay? Got out on the bridge. Now I was looking out into this, see where the lines are close together here? All right, that's the steep ridge when I was standing on the bridge. It goes through this valley where the creek is, and that goes on down to the river. All right, I crossed the bridge and I started going back up to the top of this ridge, got to the top, and the trail goes along the top of this ridge. And then where it started falling back down, where I said the animals would start using again. See, they don't want to cross up to the this steep hill from this valley up to the top, and then it falls off back towards the railroad tracks. This is the highest point. When it starts going back down, though, the animals will use those low points. That's where my camera is, okay? And then I came out here. There's the field, probably where that camera is. They're coming out to feed in that field. And then I walked around the edge here. You see how big of a flat area? See this ridge here and the lines? It's a real big open area where there's not many lines. That means it's a good site for the field. Okay, I came back around by the greenhouse. All right, big flat area right here by the pond. Big flat here. This is actually a ridge. All right, and then it goes back, came across the pond, all right, and into the school. Now, I can look and see how far I walked on my content. Okay, I gotta find my track somewhere. There, tracks. All right, so this track, if I could look at it, I went 0.9 miles, almost a mile. All right, on my phone it showed that I went, it took me 22 minutes to walk all that. So it's pretty cool. So I could make a waypoint here, and I could pick what I want it to look like, all right? And I could take a color, and I could move it and put it, say, on that point right there, okay? Then I could save it. Now on my phone, I can even change the waypoints to look like a camera or anything else. But that would say that's the high point. Or if you want to go out and mark something on here, what I did with the kids last year is we would mark places that we thought would be good places for cameras, for game or animals. And then I'd go put one there. I'd go find the mark they dropped, and then I'd go put one there and see what we got. Now, I'm going to make a quick video on anything that might have been on that game camera. I only had it out there for like 3 days because I knew I was going to be doing this lesson. So I'll check it and show you if anything's on there. All right, I'll go through these real quick. This is the game camera pictures that I got. There's me on November 16th, so 2 days ago, 3 days ago, putting it out on my break. Here comes a buck through there. All right, he came, he's checking that scrape that was there. Kind of just walked right through it. See, these are just pictures of, there's a squirrel, another squirrel, getting to be darker at night. That was a decent little buck. That was a good buck. There's a littler buck. Raccoons at night. Another little buck. Squirrel, squirrel. The wind blowing, another little buck. Decent buck. Raccoons. Raccoons like that area. That's a cool little buck. Raccoons. Squirrels. And there's Mr. D making his video for you guys. All right. All right, so that is today's lesson on topography lines and landforms. Okay, so like I said, we will begin talking about different types of earth science. We're probably gonna start with either the rock cycle or changes to the Earth's surface, where we talk about landforms and things like that. That would probably go best with what we're doing. We should probably start with the rock cycle, though, because that's kind of the beginning of it all, how the land is formed and how we get land, because, yeah, I think that's what we'll do. Okay, so that is it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed me making the video. I'll try to put a few sound effects in there, but this is going to be a long one, so it's going to be hard to upload. But that is all I have for today. It is Friday, and you have no assignment other than watching that video. Actually, your only assignment will be, I'm going to have a document here, and you tell me 3 things that you learned or enjoyed about the video. One of them could be my stunning good looks. Yep, still here. You looking at me?
Hey guys, remember me? Hey, I was just out. Yeah, it's Bob. Bob, the guy that has the name that goes Bob frontwards and Bob backwards. That's right. That's why the people, they call me Bob backwards. Hi, it's Bob backwards here. But hey, I snuck into Mr. D's room, and I was out on in the nature area, and he was out there talking about those topography maps, you know, the topography maps that you guys are learning about. Yeah, he was learning you guys that stuff, but I was spying on him out in the hills. I was up there on the top of that point where he was at, and he didn't even know I was there. Okay, so the next time he's out there, I'm going to jump out and scare him. But don't you guys tell him that I'm going to be out there, okay? You can do that, right? Bob, remember that. It's not hard to forget. I can't remember anything, but I can remember my name because it's Bob. You go frontwards, Bob, and then backwards, Bob backwards. See ya.